Madam President?
Yes.
Good morning, Madam President. We are recording.
Terrific. Thank you.
Good morning. Welcome to the regular meeting of the Board of Water and Power Commissioners. Today is Tuesday, December 14th, 2021. This proceeding is broadcast on Channel 35. The exact broadcast times can be found by contacting Channel 35. General Counsel?
Good morning. In conformity with AB 361, this meeting is being conducted partially remotely, and all public comment will be taken telephonically. Members of the public wishing to call in and offer public comment on today's agenda items or general public comment may do so by calling 213-306-3065. Again, that number is 213-306-3065. When prompted, please enter 249-0000-5356. Again, the prompt number is 249-0000-5356. You will have 2 minutes per item and a total of 5 minutes for all items. If you are listening to today's meeting on your computer, please turn it down when speaking so that we don't get feedback. Madam Board Secretary, at this time I turn it over to you for a roll call.
Thank you. President McCLAIN-HILL?
Present.
Vice President Reyes?
Present.
Commissioner BARAD-HOPKINS? Commissioner BARAD-HOPKINS?
Present.
Commissioner LEHRER?
Wait, okay, I think I'm in.
Yes, we
Can
can.
you hear me?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
4 members present and a quorum. I will now turn it over to you, President.
Thank you. I will begin today's meeting with opening remarks relative to the ongoing investigation of individuals related to the Department of the Los Angeles Department of Water and Power and the City Attorney's Office. In addition, certainly I am mindful of and want to speak to the recent news of the indictments of attorneys working for the department, along with 2 former department employees. The failed implementation of the consumer billing system was a very difficult and painful time for this department, and more importantly, created both havoc, chaos, and unnecessary stress for our customers. However, technology systems sometimes go badly, and sometimes implementation fails. While regrettable, it pales in comparison to the extraordinary damage and the incredible breach of trust that was inflicted and has been inflicted upon this department by the criminal acts of those individuals who have pled guilty in connection with their activities at the Department of Water and Power. There is and are no words to describe the level of outrage, sadness, and sense of betrayal felt by this board and by members of this department, nor the regret that we feel associated with the extraordinary impacts of their behavior, negative impacts, both as it relates to department operations, but again, and more significantly, as it relates to the level of service that we provide to our customers. It would be preferable if we could simply chalk this up to the acts of a few people with ill intent. However, Were we to leave it at that, we would be derelict in our duty to not only address what has occurred, but to mitigate the potential for future occurrence. Toward that end, it is imperative that we acknowledge significant failures as it relates to structures and systems that exist to protect this department, to protect our ratepayers from this kind of activity. In particular, there has been a significant failure in oversight at the City Attorney's Office, both past and ongoing, as it relates to their representation of this department. There's no more polite way to say it. In addition, as a member of this board and part of the charter authorized structure of oversight, I must also acknowledge that our oversight structure was lacking. It is our responsibility, our obligation, and within our authority to oversee the actions of the general manager, to ask tough questions, to probe, to inquire, to look beyond what is presented to us, to look at sources beyond representations made by a single individual, and to ensure that the interests of ratepayers are protected at all times. In that duty, this board failed. Yesterday, the Board of Commissioners, as a response to these matters, authorized me to forward a letter to the City Attorney's Office advising him of our determination that the department requires independent representation moving forward in all matters related to the ongoing investigation of the department and in matters related to and arising out of the customer billing system debacle. In addition to that, I would like today to introduce the following motion. Whereas the Los Angeles Department of Water and Power's response to the failed launch of the new customer information system in 2013, which included a new customer care and billing system, has been the subject of numerous reports and investigations, including a criminal inquiry into the actions of attorneys employed and or retained by the Office of the City Attorney to represent the LADWP in litigation arising out of Jones versus the City of Los Angeles and related cases. And whereas California rules of professional conduct prohibit a lawyer from representing a client if there is a significant risk the lawyer's representation of the client will be materially limited by the lawyer's responsibilities to or relationship with another client, a former client, or a third person, or by the lawyer's own interest without informed written consent. And whereas, in light of certain findings contained in the Special Master's report on the investigation into any violations surrounding the case and action of Jones versus City of Los Angeles and related cases, filed with the Los Angeles Superior Court on July 12, 2021, and the information and plea agreements in the matter of the United States of America versus Paul Parody, United States of America versus David Wright, and United States of America versus David Alexander, it is imperative that the LADWP be independently represented in all matters associated with the ongoing federal investigation related to these events, and immediate steps be taken to increase transparency and strengthen oversight. Therefore, the Board of Water and Power Commissioners hereby moves and directs as follows, that the Department of Water and Power be prohibited from simultaneously contracting with any attorney, law firm, or special counsel providing legal services to the department as a consultant in any matter or in any future matter related to the subject of their previous representation. That a conflict stress test be performed requiring affirmative disclosure to the Board of Commissioners of any actual or perceived conflict of interest by any outside counsel retained by the city attorney and paid for with ratepayer funds prior to board approval of a contract to provide legal services. Such disclosure shall be attested to under penalty of perjury. That the department's chief financial officer, in collaboration with its chief accounting employee, prepare and present to the board a report detailing all ratepayer funds spent between September 1st, 2013 to present date for legal services in connection with any matter, including investigations stemming from or related to the customer billing system implementation, litigation against PricewaterhouseCoopers, the customer class action litigation, and all subsequent legal costs incurred for representation in class action proceedings following discovery of the Jones conflicts, including expenditures for substitute class counsel, special master investigations, and the U.S. Attorney's investigation of the above matters, and the Inventador contract and subsequent related contracts with Ardent Cyber Solutions. In the interest of full transparency, such report shall also include the total expenditures and hours, including the names of all firms representing either LADWP and the City of Los Angeles, and those funds expended by the city attorney for any outside special counsel or counsel retained by the city attorney's office to provide outside counsel or investigator services on behalf of the office of the city of attorney if DWP was ultimately billed for those services. That the department's chief financial officer report to the Board of Water and Power Commissioners all legal fees paid by LADWP ratepayers by matter and firm on a semi-annual basis beginning with the current fiscal year. The first such report shall be presented by February 15, 2022. That an Inspector General, as set forth in the job description publicly posted on December 10, 2021, be hired within 90 days, and that a report be provided to the board detailing the funds and staffing initially proposed to be allocated to the Office of Inspector General within 60 days. That in addition to employees being able to report concerns or potential wrongdoing to the City Controller Fraud, Waste, and Abuse Hotline and/or law enforcement authorities, a process be established and returned to the board for adoption, allowing for such reports to be submitted to the chief accounting employee in the office of the Board of Water and Power Commissioners, who, upon review of any complaint, will refer it as appropriate to the Office of Public Accountability and/or the DWP Inspector General. That the Chief Procurement Officer provide a report to the Board of Water and Power Commissioners within 45 days to effectuate affirmative signature authority for the CPO before transactions are brought before the board, ensuring that the board is informed about exceptions to or conformance with department procurement practices and standards, publication of all required notices of compliance, and coordination with the OPA and Chief Accounting Officer as necessary to ensure the ethical expectations of the public are met. And finally, request that the Office of Public Accountability provide a report to the Board of Water and Power Commissioners consisting of recommendations for additional remedial action within 45 days. It is imperative that the Board of Water and Power Commissioners act expeditiously. Accordingly, this motion will be considered for approval at the next board meeting. I want to close my comments by saying quite simply that I have full appreciation for the extraordinary pain associated with many of the employees, and in particular, many of the members of our senior management team who worked closely, unbeknownst to them, with a now admitted person of ill repute who was in real time seeking to defraud this department and committing crimes upon the department. I have complete and total confidence in our management team and appreciate, respect, and want to support the work that they are doing and that I know they will do moving forward. I know that they will join with us in working to advance, support, and embrace greater transparency, and will appreciate and have appreciated efforts by this board to increase our oversight. I also want to point out that most of the activities associated with the Aventador contract, most of the information shared about the Aventador contract and related activities in this department were shared in closed session in a manner that isolated and did not include or allow for either oversight or input by our ratepayer advocate, or the ability of our senior management team to understand, to observe, and to in any way mitigate the activities of the general manager. Moving forward, that will not be possible. This board adopted in its very early meetings a resolution requiring the presence of our ratepayer advocate at all closed sessions. This board has also increased its staffing in order to support its independence and to better support its oversight activities. Transparency, integrity, and service. Those are the commitments and the foundation of the work that we do here and the commitments we make every day. I regret what has occurred. Apologize to members of the public who are reading with dismay the events that have transpired at this department, and want to also stand with the thousands of employees who come to work every day and give every measure their best at all times. And with that, I will yield my time to our board vice president, SUSANA Reyes.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you, President McCLAIN-HILL, for mentioning the work that this current board has been doing to improve transparency and accountability. This is a sad day for all of us. And I just want to paraphrase a quote from John F. Kennedy when he said, when written in Chinese, the word crisis is composed of two characters. One represents danger and the other represents opportunity. Today's headlines are dominated by abuses of trust in organizations, whether that's broken contracts or data breaches, allegations of discrimination or harassment, or bribery and corruption. And sadly, our LADWP is one of them. The actions of former employees have brought shame and disgrace. It has stained the trust that we have built over the years with our customers, our allies, our partners, and employees. It has disrupted our values and norms. And more importantly, It has impacted our hardworking and dedicated employees. And I really want to focus on that today. Employee morale is hurting. At a time when the leaders of this organization are working to change our culture, to embody more trust, transparency, inclusion, and accountability, this crisis comes before us. Corruption hurts everyone. Employees that know that they are working for an unethical organization where bribery is tolerated and practiced are more likely to be unmotivated and disinterested in their work. And this negatively impacts performance, output, and overall staff morale. And this can lead to poor performance and high turnover. And when corruption and bribery takes place, resources are diverted from their appropriate and planned for destination. Corruption reduces that infrastructure of our organization, as well as the effectiveness of public investments. As I said in a recent press statement, we owe it to our customers and the hardworking women and men of this department to take action to prevent the types of legal conflicts of interest and ethical lapses that led to this complete fiasco. As someone who has spent decades serving alongside our dedicated employees, it really sickens me to see their professional reputations damaged by these entirely preventable conflicts. And I am committed to instituting the ethical reforms that will prevent them from ever happening again. I believe this is a very strong board commitment from every member of this board and the leaders of this organization. So therefore, I want us to take this opportunity to avoid any repeat of this fiasco. During this crisis, our leaders, our managers, our supervisors are asked, this is your responsibility, it's actually an obligation, to identify and remove or mitigate the risks specific to your work area. And it is imperative that the department establish and maintain a corruption-resistant culture. The public deserves no less. I yield my time. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I am looking at the screen. Do I have comments by other members?
None at this time, but I wanted to make you aware that I am present.
Thank you, Nicole. Then we will, seeing none, we will move on to the next item on the agenda. And let me say first that I'm going to take the liberty of doing some reordering here. We will move general public comment to our next to last item. And we will instead advance to this portion of the meeting two resolutions, a board resolution for our former board secretary, Susie Rodriguez, and an additional board resolution for our retiring labor union chief and leader, Brian D'Arcy. So with that reordering, let me begin with the resolution to Susie Rodriguez. And I just want to preface by saying that Susie is the board secretary that was hired and appointed for my at the beginning of my tenure as board president, and I am eternally grateful to her. This is a very, very large, complex organization with lots of processes and procedures and a very big job, and without Susie, I just don't know how I would have stepped up to it, so I very much appreciate her. Her resolution reads as follows: whereas Ms. Susie A. Rodriguez, Board Secretary to the Water and Power Commissioners, retired on April 1st, 2021, after 42 years of public service with the City of Los Angeles. And whereas Ms. Rodriguez began her career with the City of Los Angeles as a clerk typist in 1979, transferred to the Los Angeles Department of Water and Power in 1980, and in 1986 promoted to senior clerk typist. And whereas in 2003, Ms. Rodriguez promoted to Utility Executive Secretary in the Labor Relations Office, and in 2010 promoted as a Utility Executive Secretary for the Board of Water and Power Commissioners, where she quickly became a vital part of the Commission Office team. And whereas Ms. Rodriguez's work ethic and skills were always noted, and in 2014 she was promoted as the Utility Executive Secretary for the General Manager, and then received her last and most deserved promotion as Board Secretary in 2019. And whereas Ms. Rodriguez promoted to positions in a number of historical firsts for LADWP, Ms. Rodriguez is the first administrative professional to serve as both the Secretary to the General Manager and the Board Secretary. She proudly worked with the first female LADWP General Manager and the first all-female board of the Department of Water and Power Commissioners. Whereas Ms. Rodriguez is a second-generation LADWP employee, following in her father, Albert L. Rodriguez's footsteps, and even though he has now passed, along with Ms. Rodriguez's mother, Connie, they are most certainly proud of everything she has accomplished. And now, therefore, be it resolved that the Board of Water and Power Commissioners, on behalf of the management of this department, its employees, and the residents of the City of Los Angeles, thank Ms. Rodriguez for her dedicated public service and wishes her all the best in retirement. Her presence in the board office and in chambers are and have been missed since the day she left, particularly her expertise and professionalism. Be it further resolved that the Secretary be instructed to place this resolution in the minutes of this board as a permanent record, and that an engrossed copy of this resolution be presented to Ms. Rodriguez in recognition of her committed dedication to public service in the city. I hereby certify that the foregoing is a full, true, and correct copy of the resolution adopted by the Board of Water and Power Commissioners of the City of Los Angeles at its meeting held on December 14th, 2021. May I have a motion to adopt the resolution?
I move to adopt the resolution.
Second? Thank you. May I have a roll call?
President McCLAIN-HILL.
Present. I'm sorry. Yes.
Vice President Reyes.
Aye.
Commissioner BARAD-HOPKINS.
Aye.
Commissioner LEHRER. Commissioner LEHRER.
No, yes.
Okay. Commissioner NEEMAN Brady.
Yes.
5 ayes.
Thank you. The motion passes. Susie could not be here today, but asked that I read the following. I am honored and blessed to have worked at LADWP for 42 years. Thank you to all my coworkers through the years. A special thanks to my father, who introduced me to DWP. And thank you to the board for recognizing my service and accomplishments. With heartfelt appreciation, Susie. Susie is also aware that I am on a mission to have her return as soon as she is able to do so, and we are able to fully celebrate her service with a crowd of employees that both miss and are eager to demonstrate their appreciation. With that, we will turn to the next board resolution, and that is a resolution honoring Brian DRC. Clarissa, would you please invite Mr. DRC and members of IBW into the room?
Sit over here.
You may sit or you may stand, sir. I mean, if I were in different times, I'd actually offer you my chair. Although if I gave you the gavel, you might use it, and that would freak everybody out.
Hey, Mr. Barrett, how are you?
Doing well, sir.
No, I have fond memories of screaming at people from that podium.
Then please stay seated.
Make it friendly. Right.
Well, thank you for being here. On behalf of the Board of Water and Power Commissioners, I would like to congratulate Mr. Brian DRC for his more than 30 years of service to IBW Local 18 and its members, who comprise the majority of LADWP employees, and for your staunch advocacy on behalf of causes that have been vital both to working women and men in the state of California and the Department of Water and Power, and I might add to the state as a whole. I have a lot to read here about you, and I'm going to do that. But I also just want to say, on a more personal note, that one of the absolute highlights of my service on this board has been the opportunity to get to know the living legend that is Brian DRC. It has been among the most enlightening, pleasurable, and educational experience of my professional life. I have the utmost both respect and admiration for you, and appreciate your being in this boardroom today, a place that I understand you've avoided for quite some time.
Successfully.
I also want to pay regards to all of the members of your team that are with you here today, and to welcome them here. I know that you of all people do not require, and frankly would just as soon not sit for an attaboy from us or anyone else. It's one of the things that makes you so special. That said, it is richly deserved, and the very least that we can do to recognize your tenure in your current role. And while we look forward to working with new leadership and appreciate that your team will continue to be here to work on behalf of employees and to support and partner with this department and the leadership of LADWP. I'm also really pleased to know that every goodbye ain't gone. And so I just want to make that note as well. I will go back to my prepared remarks. As president, I've seen firsthand the sense of fulfillment and satisfaction that our employees have gained from their jobs. For many of our employees, working for LADWP provides an entryway to the middle class and allows each to make an impact in their own unique way. Having the opportunity to do that safely and with the benefits and support from your employer make all the world of difference for the employees and their families. Much of this is made possible by the partnership between the department and IBW Local 18 under your leadership. I'd like to show a brief video that captures the sentiments of just a few of our LADWP employees about what you've meant to them and their careers. And somehow, magically, I think the video will be cued and played.
Congratulations, Brian, on your retirement. I want to thank you personally for all the work that you've done for my brothers and I, the generations before me, and for paving the road for the generations after me.
Thank you for everything you've done for us and for all IBW Local 18 members. You've impacted our lives greatly. Your vision of putting people first and keeping workers safe has shown us the way, and we'll continue on that path.
Hello, Mr. Darcy. I work in the Surveys and Right-of-Way Group. We very much appreciate your time, commitment, and service to our union. We work with benchmarks every day, and a benchmark is just a reference point. But I think it is pretty incredible that through your negotiating expertise, our contract is the benchmark by which every other city department measures itself to. Thank you for setting it so high, and enjoy your retirement.
Hey, Brian, congratulations on your retirement. We hope you have a healthy rest of your life and enjoy retirement. We appreciate everything you've done, and thank you for all the contracts and everything you've negotiated for us.
Congratulations, Brian, on your upcoming retirement. Enjoyed being in Local 18, had a great time, and wonderful things have been done since I've been part of the Local 18.
Hi, Mr. Darcy. Congratulations on such a beautiful milestone in your career. I wanted to personally thank you for all the time you have invested in all of your employees, and especially for your latest contribution of the Retirement Bereavement Counselor. Happy retirement.
Congratulations on your retirement. It's well-deserved. You put in a lot of hard work here, and you've really helped all your brothers out very much.
Thank you all for your contributions. And I would say that we all have benefited off our membership.
Hello, Brian. I just want to congratulate you on your retirement. You definitely deserved it. And I want to thank you for helping me provide for my family all these years.
I just wanted to wish Mr. Brian D'Arcy a farewell in his retirement. And I wanted to say thank you very much for the hard work that he's done for DWP. And hopefully he enjoys his retirement. And thank you once again on behalf of my brothers and sisters at LADWP.
I am deeply, deeply indebted to you personally. I thank you on behalf of myself and my family. And I wish you nothing but the best, continued success, good health, happiness, all of which you have earned.
Thank you very much, Mr. Darcy, for all your hard work. Thank you for helping provide for my family. Congratulations on your retirement, and have a good time.
Congratulations, Brian. Thanks for not only looking out for the members, but also our families. I hope you have a long and happy retirement. You deserve it.
Congratulations, Brian, on your retirement. Thank you for everything you've done for IBW Local 18 and all its members. We wish you the best and a good and healthy retirement life.
Hi, Brian. Just want to wish you a happy retirement. Thanks for all your dedication, loyalty, and representation. Thanks again.
I am grateful you believed in me and gave me opportunities I never thought I would do. I am going to miss you so much. Congratulations on your retirement, and know that you've changed my life, and I'm thankful.
Hey, Brian, congratulations. Thank you for your service here, and enjoy your time off.
Hey, thanks a lot, Brian. Hope you enjoy your retirement. Thank you for all the great years of service, and make sure you get some fishing in.
That hat. Thank you. Thank you for those who participated in that video. Brian, we'll make sure you have a copy of that. Also, on behalf of the management of this organization, I want to say thank you for helping the department ward off the ill effects of the state's energy dereg and for keeping us and our both our transmission and distribution whole and intact. For the citizens, on behalf of the citizens of Los Angeles, thank you for all that you have done to ensure that this department remains not just a wonderful place to work, but for retains its ability to provide reliable and resilient electricity and water service, and for the establishment of the UPTC program, which offers hope to those folks who have yet to become members of this department. And with that, I will read your resolution, and before we adopt it, we will give you something to say. We will allow you to have a few words. What about that? Or worse, make you talk. Whereas Mr. Brian D'Arcy has spent the majority of his adult life working on behalf of California workers, and whereas Mr. Brian D'Arcy in 1990 began working as a business representative for the Local 18 chapter of the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, IBEW Local 18, becoming the elected business manager and financial secretary of IBEW Local 18 in 1992, and whereas Mr. D'Arcy, as business manager of IBEW Local 18, represents more than 10,000 members at the Los Angeles Department of Water and Power that provides Los Angeles safe and reliable water and power, and whereas Mr. D'Arcy was also the treasurer and co-founder of the California Coalition of Utility Employees, a statewide advocacy group on utility deregulation, and the co-founder of Working Californians, a nonprofit group that promotes quality of life issues for men and women working in the greater Los Angeles area. And whereas Mr. D'Arcy, in addition to preserving jobs, is passionate about organizing workers into a cohesive, strengthened, and into a cohesive unit and empowering them to stand up for their rights. And whereas Mr. D'Arcy has also helped negotiate several policies that raise training and safety standards for all IBEW Local 18 members, and whereas Mr. D'Arcy has been heavily involved in shaping policies that benefit workers across the state, specifically in 1995, working to protect thousands of jobs at LADWP and other publicly owned utilities by changing the direction of California Assembly Bill 1890, precluding publicly owned utilities from being forced to participate in deregulation, and thereby preserving local decision-making that considers the best interest of LADWP customers. And whereas Mr. D'Arcy's leadership at IBEW Local 18 will most certainly be missed with his retirement, nevertheless, his impacts and service to protecting workers and promoting safety will continue long after his retirement. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Board of Water and Power Commissioners, on behalf of the management of this department, its employees, and the residents of the City of LA, thank Mr. D'Arcy for his dedicated service to workers in Los Angeles and across the state of California. Be it further resolved that the Secretary be instructed to place this resolution in the minutes of this board as a permanent record, and that an engrossed copy of this resolution be presented to Mr. D'Arcy in recognition of his committed dedication to public service in the city. I hereby certify that the following is a full, true, and correct copy of a resolution that will be adopted by the Board of Water and Power Commissioners of the City of Los Angeles at this meeting held on December 14, 2021. Before we take up adoption of the board resolution, I'd like to open the floor to give our general manager the opportunity to say a few words.
Thank you very much, Madam President, and it's a pleasure to be with everyone, even though I'm remote today. And Brian, I apologize, I'm not there to be in the room with you, especially on the rare occasion that you came to the building, especially to the board meeting. You know, I know that you've been through a lot more general managers than we've been through, you know, business unit leaders there. And when I took this job, you know, we had known each other not near as well as we do now. But I knew that you always had the interest of the department at heart. And I don't think people really understand. It's not just the employees, but it's the well-being of the department and how we serve the city that you know, through the actions you've taken beyond representing employees, but just in terms of politics and legislation and making smart moves, that you've been a quiet force behind a lot of things to make sure that the level of service and our commitment and ability to do for the city what it needs has always remained intact. And you're a wealth of knowledge and of history, how things got to the way they are, legislative efforts and things that have worked and not worked, and both not only just in labor law, but just in providing water and power. And I've learned a lot from you. I always appreciate you kind of explaining how things got to where they are over the last 3 decades. And your experience is hugely valuable. And so I want to thank you for your friendship. Thank you for all the time that you've taken to explain things. Background and history of how we got to where we are is so critical, and we'll really miss that. You've done a fantastic job of representing over 90% of our employees. But I think beyond that, you know, you always told me that it's never been in your interest to do anything that harms this organization or harms the city. And I know that as much as you represent our workforce, at the same time, you know, the well-being of the Department of Water and Power to do its job and support the city has always been an underlying value that you've thought was very important and have done a lot to safeguard. So thank you for your partnership. We've had some interesting couple of years since I've been general manager with what we've had to deal with COVID and such. You know, in a time where there's no clear answers, but you've been a tremendous person to work with, and thank you for all you've done. And I will miss you and miss you being around. But I know you're only a phone call away, and I know that the folks you have working for you and coming up behind you are well groomed to carry on and continue to be fantastic business partners in the future. So congratulations and enjoy your retirement.
Thank you, Marty. Also, because, Brian, your reach has extended well beyond the confines of JWP, we've invited Augustin Cabrera, representing Repower LA, Lane, and now Scope, to just say a few words of appreciation for your often unnoted and unrecognized work with our nonprofit community. Augustin?
Yes, thank you, Board President. On behalf of Repower LA and over 30 community organizations across LA, we want to thank you, Brian, for your leadership and vision to advance workers' rights and racial justice in the city of LA, and working really closely with a lot of us to make sure that future IBW members become, you know, DWP employees. And so through your leadership, you have touched and transformed the lives of many Angelenos through the nationally acclaimed utility pre-craft training program. So on behalf of Lane, Scope, and Repower LA, we want to thank you and applaud your leadership and vision over the last years, and really want to wish you a happy retirement. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Augustin. Mr. DRC, I'm told that you need to move a little to closer to the mic so that your comments can be recorded, and you have the floor.
I've never had to be really near the mic to be heard, but...
Remember, you're seated. You're seated. No yelling.
I'm pretty sure they used to hear me in the back row. Thank you for this. It was completely unnecessary, but I appreciate it. I know it was done with kindness and appreciation, and I appreciate that. It's kind of bittersweet at this point. I was trying to think this morning. I started at Local 18 negotiating contracts when Tom Bradley was mayor. And I'm trying to remember who the general manager was. It was the one right before Dan Waters. But so it's quite a breadth of time, kind of frightening. We've been through a lot. The IBW stands for, among other things, justice for workers, but it makes it very clear in its constitution that its interest is making sure that our employer is also protected in that, and the relationship that we've developed, I think, is kind of a benchmark for how you're supposed to take care of your employer, and some people wonder why I might have, been in Sacramento trying to protect people against dereg or any number of phone calls I made just this morning protecting us against former general managers who now are about to screw us over. Anyway, it's been a long and great ride. The best members in the world, and I'll still be around. I'm a resident of LA, and I plan on working for Working Californians, which is still our group, and I'll be working on various things for the local, just not in the corner office or the middle office, I guess. It's leaking today, anyway. Anyway, thank you for this. I appreciate it. And I'll drop the mic now.
Thank you. And we have some difficult days ahead as leaders of this department. I can only hope that our service is equal to your leadership. Thank you so very much. Is there a motion to adopt the resolution for Mr. D'Arcy?
I so move.
Is there a second?
I second.
Would you please call the roll?
President McCLAIN-HILL?
Yes.
Vice President Reyes?
Yes.
Commissioner BARAD-HOPKINS?
Yes.
Commissioner LEHRER?
Yes.
Commissioner NEEMAN Brady?
Yes.
5 ayes.
And the motion passes. Thank you very much, and thank you all for being here. Thank you. And that concludes the IBW takeover part of the meeting. Thank you all. We will now move to reports and briefings by the general manager and others.
Thank you very much. I'll try to keep my report brief. First of all, Madam President, I appreciate your comments and the motion that the board adopted, and I guess will officially pass next meeting, regarding what's transpired with the former general manager and consultant contractors and other employees. Anyone who has been employed by DWP, understandably feels, personally and professionally betrayed and offended. And it is a terrible thing that we see in the news, something that reflects on a department that we have dedicated, many of us like myself and others in that room right there with you, decades of our life to. And so it's important that I stand up for our employees and tell the public that the department, in spite of how some of the words read in some of the press releases, the department is not a corrupt organization. We did have some corrupt individuals, luckily very few, who took advantage of a bad situation, as you said. But by and large, we have over 11,000 men and women who go out and serve the city every single day. They dedicate their life and their life's work to the people of Los Angeles, and they do a fantastic job. And so when members of the public think of the department, I want you to think of not the ones who are gone, who got caught, who will be in trouble, but the ones that keep the lights on, especially on a day like this where it's raining heavily in Los Angeles, keep the water flowing, make sure that your water quality is tested and assured every single day of the year, that answer the phones, that assist you with your bill, that do your meter reading, serve you in every way we can to help you in your life in Los Angeles. And so that is the Department of Water and Power. It's those people who are the department. We've had people come and go in my role, unfortunately, and that's caused some stabilization at the top end. But my job here is to continue to lead this department and to follow the direction of the board to help the board in its efforts to fix the problems that have happened, to make sure they don't happen again. But again, the true Department of Water and Power is the thousands and thousands of workers who make this one of the best public agencies in the United States. And I hope that they remain proud of the job that they do, have confidence, share the confidence that we have in them, understand that we recognize this is an unfair reflection to be associated with anyone who's acted as our former general manager and others have that we've seen in the news. But that's not who we are. We are those of us who made this our life's work, who rally behind the people of LA, who take care of the people of LA day in and day out. And we're proud of that. We remain committed to that. We will get through this. I fully endorse all the actions that the board's proposed, and will support all these changes to make sure that someone cannot come in and try to take advantage of the department and our customers like we have seen this happen. This is shocking news, way worse than I ever could have imagined, and way deeper than I ever could have imagined. But it's a few folks who got caught. Justice will be dealt with, and we will move forward better and stronger than ever as a department. So I thank the board for its leadership on this and for taking steps necessary to help us protect the department in the future. And again, I stand behind all our employees, tell folks to hold your heads high, be proud of the work that you do. We know what we're truly about, and we're truly about serving the city with all of the efforts and all the energy that we have. So I want to just make sure the employees understand our support for them during this time when we're seeing so much bad news in the press. I want to let the board know that we have continued with our COVID vaccines. We had another vaccine seminar last week, had hundreds of people come in to get doses, as well as flu vaccines, trying to keep our workforce healthy and safe. We have over 8,600 employees vaccinated currently. We have a smaller number, about 15% not yet vaccinated. We're seeing great response among our employees and working to meet the city's mandates, working with IBW on negotiating how we deal with these things, how we deal with vaccinations and testing and exemptions. But we have seen great progress in our vaccine numbers and great cooperation amongst our employees to ensure that the department remains safe and safe for all of its workforce, which we have done successfully for the last 2 years during the pandemic and will continue to do in the future. I want to let the board know that coupled with our rollout of the federal state dollars to help with utility debt relief, we also, the following week, rolled out further outreach for our what we now call our Easy Save program. That was for the customer assistance. And in the last 3 weeks, we've enrolled more than 3,000 additional customers who who qualified for our low-income assistance programs. And so we are seeing great success in that area. Customers are responding, and our outreach is making a difference in people's lives. And so we are continuing that effort, and again, seeing great success thanks to our customer services team and our public affairs team. I believe Andy Kendall's there. Andy, I'd like for you to get us through our weather-related issues, both the water and power sides, and any other comments that we may have.
All right, with that, thanks, Marty. We'll ask Brian Wilbur to come up and give us a quick update on the rainstorm that started last night.
Thank you, Andy. So last night, we obviously had the rain that's coming in. We currently have about 14,000 people out. I'm hoping by the time I finish speaking, about 6,000 of those will be back on, which was one major area that we had. Normally in the rain, it's mostly palm fronds get wet, blow onto the lines that cause most of our outages. I'm happy to say that our vegetation management program is well ahead of schedule, and we have not had the palm frond issues that we normally have in a major rain like this. Most of our outages are either underground water related or broken cross arms that are typical maintenance issues. So that's all.
All right, thank you. That's it. No more for the rest of the general manager comments. Thank you.
Thank you. We've already done item E. Item F, commission or comments from ratepayer advocate. Dr. Pickle, do you have any comments that you'd like to make at this point?
As issues arise, but I would like to highlight items 11 and 12. They are major contracts to support the construction of over $250 million in transmission activities, new transmission construction. And we've, in addition, looked at the notices of compliance on labor, and we believe the cost impacts of those needed to achieve those notices of compliance are reasonable. That's all I have. Thanks.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Pickle. Is there a discussion with neighborhood councils, Board Secretary?
No community impact statements or formal positions were filed by any neighborhood councils on the items on today's agenda.
Thank you. Then we will, at this point, take up items recommended for approval. None have been called special. Are there are there any commissioners who would like to have presentations on any items at this point? Seeing none, is there a motion to approve items items 1 through 16?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Board President McCLAIN-HILL, there are speakers for item number 16.
There's a speaker for item number, okay, that's correct. Items number 1 through 15 will hold item 16. Thank you. So we have a motion for approval of items 1 through 15. Is there a second?
I second.
Would you please call the roll?
Board President McCLAIN-HILL.
Aye.
Vice President Reyes.
Aye.
Commissioner BARAD-HOPKINS.
Aye.
Commissioner LEHRER.
Aye.
Commissioner NEEMAN Brady.
Aye.
5 ayes.
Thank you. We'll now move to management reports. Presentation regarding LADWP wildfire mitigation plan and update.
Up here, Scott.
All right.
Go ahead, Scott.
Thank you. Good morning, commissioners. Scott Hiroshima, I'm supervisor in the regulatory compliance section of the power system. here this morning to present to you on the 2021 updates to our wildfire mitigation plan. And so, as everyone is probably aware, we are facing a new normal in terms of wildfires and wildfire risk faced by electric utilities in California. We're seeing a larger number of wildfires per year, as this graph represents. This data is from CAL FIRE, showing the number of wildfires. And what's interesting is not only are we seeing the number of wildfires increase, but also the acres burned by those wildfires increasing. And actually, 8 of the largest fires in California history have all occurred in the past 4 years. And so this increasing trend is largely attributed to climate change. We're seeing a larger number of high heat waves, also extended drought conditions. So there's also an abundance of fuel out there in terms of dead trees and brush resulting from those drought conditions. As well as high wind conditions that really drive these wildfires, make them so difficult to contain. And so in response, the California legislature has taken several actions over the past few years. Namely, in 2019, they passed Assembly Bill 1054, creating the Wildfire Safety Advisory Board. And this board's main role is to advise on wildfire safety measures. Recently, they were actually just transitioned from the California Public Utilities Commission over to the Natural Resources Agency and in the Office of Energy Infrastructure and Safety. Another role that they play is reviewing the wildfire mitigation plans of both investor-owned utilities and publicly owned utilities. AB 1054 also requires publicly owned utilities such as LADWP to update our wildfire mitigation plans on an annual basis. And comprehensive updates are to occur every 3 years. And most recently in 2020, the first submittal back in 2020 to the Wildfire Safety Advisory Board was followed in December of that year by the Wildfire Safety Advisory Board providing their advisory opinion on those plans. And it's important to note that those recommendations were not specific to any one utility, but really meant to address publicly owned utilities generally. And so this is just a summary of those recommendations. Just to touch on a few. So first, the Wildfire Safety Advisory Board was interested to learn more about publicly owned utilities and really what makes up their risk profile to help better set context for their review of the wildfire mitigation plans. Next item I want to touch on is system hardening. So the Wildfire Safety Advisory Board had an interest to learn how utilities plan their infrastructure replacements, as well as how wildfire risk informs system design and construction. And the last item I want to mention is vegetation management. The Wildfire Safety Advisory Board had a keen interest to learn specifically what type of practices and methods publicly owned utilities utilize in their vegetation management work, as well as the qualifications of the personnel performing that work. And regarding LADWP's wildfire mitigation efforts, so recently to help facilitate awareness within the company and to spur discussion on current and future wildfire mitigation efforts, we formed the Wildfire Mitigation Plan Committee. This is a department-wide committee led by a smaller core team, and that core team stays in tune with industry, also participates in those Wildfire Safety Advisory Board workshops. And that really helps set the direction for the larger committee, and it helps you prioritize the updates to the plan. In addition, we formed several subgroups on specific sections within the wildfire mitigation plan, and that's led to a lot of open discussion and really helps inform the content of the plan. And so this is just representing the different divisions in the Wildfire Mitigation Plan Committee. As I mentioned, this is a department-wide committee. We have representatives from power, water, and joint systems. And wildfire mitigation is really something that touches on so many different aspects of our organization, and each one of these divisions has an important role in that aspect. And now regarding the specific updates to our wildfire mitigation plan, So it's important to note that we are required to update our plan annually, as I mentioned, with comprehensive updates occurring every 3 years. So the 2021 update was an incremental update, and we do plan a comprehensive update in 2022. So in order to address the Wildfire Safety Advisory Board's recommendations, we actually drafted a separate informational document because many of the recommendations were already addressed in previous versions of our plan. And so this informational document was meant to consolidate our responses and directly address the Wildfire Safety Advisory Board. Within the plan itself, we updated our vegetation management section to address the recommendation on specific methods and practices we utilize in vegetation management, as well as the qualifications of the personnel performing that work. And we also updated the power system reliability metrics that we represent in the plan, and to reflect the latest infrastructure replacements that we actually performed this past year. And that's really a good gauge of how we're doing in terms of grid hardening. And with that, I think I'd like to pass it on to Mr. Dave Hansen to discuss wildfire preventative strategies.
Good morning, Madam President, Vice President, Water and Power Commissioners. I'm Dave Hansen. I'm the Assistant Director of Power Transmission and Distribution. So we employ some preventative strategies with our wildfire mitigation plan. First, with design and infrastructure, PSRP being part of our infrastructure. The design, we stay up to date with new technologies, specifically steel poles and covered overhead conductor. Our vegetation management, like Scott mentioned several times, we have a very aggressive vegetation management program where we stay ahead of growth cycles of trees, and our employees know those growth cycles and plan accordingly. For operations and protocol, for example, on a red flag warning day or a high wind event, we would stand down from normal operations and just focus on restorations. We wouldn't want to be performing any work that could actually cause a wildfire. Our inspection and maintenance program, we're able to stay on top of it with our service territory. We do a yearly patrol and a detailed patrol every 5 years. Here's an example of some steel poles that we've installed in our system with the fiberglass cross arms. And covered conductor, like I mentioned before, it's actually a insulated conductor without the shielding, so it's got a PVC coating, and it helps to eliminate or mitigate our risk. If conductor does come down, it helps us to reduce the risk of sparking. It doesn't eliminate it, but it does help. Our avian protection, we've started installing these at certain portions of our system that are in the high fire hazard areas, and this is to help prevent a bird strike where the bird is ground and the conductor is not, and then the bird becomes a cross. So you can see our metrics for PSRP for 2019-2020. We replaced 4,010 poles, 10,611 cross arms, 875 transformers, and 2.75 miles of conductor. On the pie chart, the portion in red indicates what number of those changeouts were performed in a high fire hazard area, Tier 2 and Tier 3 zone. Here's an overview of the map that shows our service territory, including the Owens Valley. You can see, just as a reminder, the Tier 3 areas on the border. Out in the valley areas, we do have some Tier 2 within the city and south, and specifically up in the Owens Valley, but the majority of our Tier 3 high fire hazard area is in the valley. And our vegetation management program that we've mentioned a couple times here, we have a database of 480,000 trees, and we know by species what their growth cycles will be. So it's our yearly pruning cycle that we identify and stay ahead of this. We meet or exceed what the recommendations are for this. The requirement being 4 feet from the fire zone, we actually trim back to 6 to 8 feet. And thank you very much.
And so what's next for us? As I mentioned, we submitted our wildfire mitigation plan to the Wildfire Safety Advisory Board in June of this past year. We participated in a workshop with them last week where we learned that they plan to release their advisory opinion on our 2021 wildfire mitigation plan by late Q1, early Q2 next year. And this go around, they've actually committed to providing utility-specific recommendations. So we are looking forward to that, and we will address and evaluate and address those recommendations as appropriate. Now, in the meantime, we've already begun our updates to the 2022 wildfire mitigation plan. And these are just some of the areas that we're looking to expand upon. Situational awareness, in terms of the data and technology that really makes us aware of wildfire conditions, as well as helps to inform our decision-making. We're also going to look to expand on customer awareness and communication. So how we can raise awareness within the public on our wildfire mitigation efforts, as well as the impacts to the public. And we're going to revisit our operational protocols to see if there's anything that needs to be updated in terms of how we respond to wildfires and wildfire conditions. And once all the updates are completed, we will be contracting with an independent third party to review our plan and assess the comprehensiveness of the plan. And that will be presented to this board once it's complete. And with that, I'd like to welcome any questions.
I'm just curious on the Eastern Sierras. Do we partner with the Forest Service and other nonprofits and even tribal agencies for wildfire protection efforts?
We do coordinate with the local fire departments up there, Inyo County Fire, and the various local fire departments. In terms of the actual collaboration, I'm not aware of it. Maybe report back on the actual collaboration that occurs with those agencies.
I'll be interested in that. Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you. Are there any other questions?
You showed, excuse me, a map of Los Angeles City, and you mentioned the valley. What valley are you discussing there?
I believe that was in reference to the San Fernando Valley.
Okay, and there are specific areas in the San Fernando Valley that are more fire prone than others?
Let's see. Just looking at the map here, the western edge of our service territory in the valley, I think there's a lot of, there's some tier 2 as well as some tier 3 areas on that edge of our service territory. As well as.
Are you referring to Chatsworth?
I believe it's out in that direction, yes.
Okay. That's near the Ventura line, Ventura County line.
Yes, I believe so.
So those areas go through Sylmar, Chatsworth, Granada Hills, along that 210 freeway corridor, right, where the winds typically get to a much higher sustained speed.
The winds are much higher in the west part of the valley.
Right, and that's where those tier 2, tier 3 areas are, the areas where it's not quite as, it's more rural. There's more brush and trees, less homes, and sustained higher winds. So.
And the last, I remember the last fire that we had, West Hills area, a lot of those people were evacuated. Mm-hmm.
Now, one of the other things we've done with mitigation is increase our construction standards for those areas. Our standards are constructed to a higher wind rating than is required by the state, and so we've done that. And now again, installing the covered wire is a really big part of this for the industry, where tree branches that fall over. A tree, in the past will have, on windy days, trees that are old, they'll lean over and lay against the conductor and then put a ground on the circuit and cause that arcing and a fire. And the covered wire will help mitigate that in the future, or again, a palm frond blowing across the line. So,
excuse me, this is Mia LEHRER, and I really, really appreciate this report. It's very thorough, and I wonder if there's a way to sort of share with either, I don't know whether it's in different council areas in the high schools or something, so that, or libraries. A lot of people ask me, or if you want to set up some webinars for people, like, maybe 5 or 6 webinars, so people understand that there is a really important planning effort moving forward. I know tree people have been doing a lot of work along some research that they're doing about soils and the benefit of certain type of soils management that is really important, and they're finding very beneficial. And so Tree People is a good convener. They have things about 3-4 times a year. I just, it's hard to, or, in our, some of us live near large areas of potential danger, like Griffith Park or areas in the valley. And so I'm just putting it out there. I don't have an answer. I'm just saying sharing this information with more people would be valuable and appreciated. So I'll leave it until I bring it up next time to ask if you come up with some ideas, because it would be hard. I would be hard pressed, even though I know quite a bit, to really go through it. And I think it'd be great if you would take a little time and either we set up some webinars, or if the libraries are open, or, for example, at Griffith Park, you could have in one of the facilities a wildfire working session / webinar. And there's several facilities there that could take up to 100 people, and I'm sure people would be very, very interested, and they would collaborate with you. If you don't know, I have 3 very large eucalyptus in the front of my house, and I don't know what you would say if you saw them. So I think that's a suggestion to consider sharing the information with the public in some outward, facing way.
Thank you, Commissioner LEHRER. Are there any questions or additional comments?
Is it possible that we can get copies of these LADWP wildfire maps, particularly the one in the city of Los Angeles?
There are copies associated with the presentation that were distributed as part of Prime Gov. I'll make sure that the board office works with you, Commissioner, to provide copies via email, okay?
Good, thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Very welcome. So thank you. We will move to, first, let me back up. I think that report's complete. In my haste to move through the meeting and move into the closed session part of our discussion, I pulled the trigger on our vote on the recommended items before taking public comment, and sure enough, there were parties waiting to speak on item L2. So we will need to move to reconsider that item and take and consider public comment in advance of moving that item forward. So I would like to move forward in a motion to reconsider item L2. Is there a second?
I second.
And would you please take the roll?
President McCLAIN-HILL?
Yes.
Vice President Reyes?
Yes.
Commissioner BARAD-HOPKINS?
Yes.
Commissioner LEHRER?
Yes.
Commissioner NEEMAN Brady?
Yes.
5 ayes.
Okay, thank you. And there were no requests for a presentation on the item. Can we move to public comment?
Sure.
Thank you.
Good morning, callers. Please state your name and the agenda item you will be speaking on. Please be mindful you will have 2 minutes for public comment. The first caller is Kelly Clark.
Good morning. My name is Kelly Clark, and I'm a senior attorney with LA Waterkeeper. Our mission is to fight for the health of the region's waterways and for sustainable, equitable, and climate-friendly water supplies. Thank you for this opportunity to address you on the important issue of item L2 and the approval of the local capacity technical report for scattergood generating station units 1 and 2 for the extension of the OTC policy deadline. First, we support LADWP's commitment to the transition to a carbon-neutral power scheme. As we continue to see the devastating effects of climate change, the need for this transition has become even more apparent. We understand the upgrades proposed in this item will be necessary for any means of transitioning to a clean energy future, and we support that progress. However, we also want to make the board aware that at present, the vision for how that transition will happen remains unclear. We urge the board to require a similarly detailed plan for how the green energy transition will occur before any application is made to the state board for an extension of the OTC policy. This must include specifications that are technically feasible, that prioritize a just transition, and that are resilient to climate change. Any plan must also include milestones that hold LADWP accountable for making this transition as expeditiously as possible, as there is no longer any time for delay. The choice to extend the OTC deadline for 5 years to 2029 represents a significant departure from the initial deadline and will perpetuate real harms to the marine ecosystem that once-through cooling entails. As such, any extension may only be justified if there is a real and just transition to clean energy occurring during that period, and that this board closely oversees that and for which the department is held accountable. A clear plan that can be implemented by LADWP without extensions is necessary before LA Waterkeeper would be willing to support any application for an extension of the deadline at the state board. We look forward to seeing such a plan presented to this board prior to any application. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. The next caller is Francis Yang.
Morning, Commissioners. My name is Francis Yang. I'm an organizer for the Circles My Generation campaign, which works to get California to 100% equitable transition. And I'm also speaking on item L2, the technical report on scattered power plant. So Circles is really concerned about this report and the pending approval to extend the lifetime of the fossil fuel plant Scattergood. While we understand that DWP is worried that the 2024 retirement date, the initial retirement date, may bring challenges for the reliability of our grid, we first need to see how DWP is aggressively planning to build a quick and robust renewable infrastructure in basin that can fill that gap. Really, no one said that the path to 100% would be easy, but if we can't rise to the challenge of using one power plant, then we need to push harder and move quicker. As we all know, climate change, environmental injustice, and ecological degradation are not theories here. They are realities every day in Los Angeles. That's why Sierra Club is pushing for an ambitious in-basin clean energy plan that puts us on the path to retire gas plants as soon as possible. We really need to build those clean energy solutions first and not keep relying on our old fossil fuel infrastructure. So building local renewables and storage and energy efficiency quickly gets us off the path towards power plants and moves us to better directly benefit communities and our grid at large. So in essence, we really need to wait until the SLTRP is done next year so that we have a clear scope of both the future of LA's grid and the future of Scattergood as a site. So approving an extension until that roadmap is finished next year would be premature and uninformed. Thank you for your time today.
Thank you. The next caller is Annalise Moe.
Good morning, board members. For the record, my name is Annalise Moe, and I am speaking on item L2 about Scattergood's extension item. I'm here today on behalf of Fill the Bay. We're a nonprofit environmental organization based in Santa Monica, and we're dedicated to keeping the waters of Greater LA safe, healthy, and clean. Back in 2005, the Clean Energy Commission first recognized that once-through cooling is a contributing factor to the degradation of California's fisheries, estuaries, bays, and coastal waters, resulting from impingement, entrainment, and impacts from the discharged OTC effluent. Fill the Bay was one of the many stakeholders that worked to craft the requirements of the state's once-through cooling policy, and we also served on the expert review panel for this policy. So Fill the Bay has a vested interest in the implementation of the policy and the fate of once-through cooling facilities statewide. Again, it has been over 15 years since discussions began, so it's critical that the Los Angeles Department of Water and Power honor the agreements made and follow the original phase-out timeline in the once-through cooling policy to the extent possible, not only for the health of California's coastal ecosystems, but also for the health and safety of our communities who deserve breathable air and clean energy solutions. The vote before you today is on whether or not to approve the low-capacity technical report on Scattergood Generating Station Units 1 and 2. However, since it is stated in the agenda that the report is for the purpose of an extension request, I must address LADWP's long-term plan for this report and for Scattergood. LADWP must wait on any extension request until the 2022 Strategic Long-Term Resources Plan is finished so that we can all have a clear understanding of the Scattergood site as a whole and within plans for the other in-basin reliability measures. Building clean energy systems with adequate storage directly benefits communities by getting us off of old fossil fuel infrastructure. At the same time, we also have to recognize the significant impacts, negative impacts of once-through cooling operation on California's coastal habitats and ecosystems, which serve as a major climate buffer, absorbing the excess CO2 and heat that we continue to emit into the atmosphere. So if it is determined that LADWP will pursue an extension request for the original phase-out timeline in the once-through cooling policy, it must be as a necessary step for the greater good, if and only if LADWP develops ambitious in-basin clean energy plans that put us on a path to retire all gas plants as soon as possible. Thank you very much for the opportunity to provide comment today.
Thank you. The last caller is Catherine Ronan.
Good morning. My name is Catherine Ronan, and I live in LA. I don't understand why DWP is coming to you now to approve a report saying that Scattergood must run for another 8 years before being retired. How do they know that when they haven't completed their strategic long-term plan? How do they know that when they haven't fleshed out and maximized the near-term, no-regrets options spelled out in the NREL LA 100 study? These include opportunities such as energy efficiency and demand response. They include rapid deployment of new solar, wind, batteries, and transmission in basin. Instead of acting quickly to take measures which will end our reliance on fossil fuels, it looks to me like DWP is focusing on entirely the wrong thing, prolonging the life of a dirty, fossil fuel-powered, pollution-emitting, ocean-warming, climate-warming, unhealthy power plant. If, after they complete their long-term plan next September and put their best foot forward to expediently and ambitiously develop and incentivize in-basin renewables and storage and energy efficiency, they still find they need to keep Scattergood running, they will have the facts they need to present an extension proposal, and you will have the facts you need to properly evaluate it. Thank you.
Thank you. That will now close all public comment.
Thank you. And again, let me apologize for allowing the item to move forward in advance of taking public comment. We appreciate the comments from members of the public and will certainly consider them as we move forward. So appreciate that. We will take up that item when we take up item 16 for a revote. If we can now move to filed reports. Item J, are there any items that commissioners would have questions about or would like to discuss? We've got a long list today. Seeing none, we will then move to item K, 1, an approval of minutes. Are there any questions or comments regarding the minutes? If not, is there a motion for approval?
I so move.
Second, would you call the roll?
Oh, sorry. Board President McCLAIN-HILL?
Yes.
Vice President Reyes?
Yes.
Commissioner BARAD-HOPKINS?
Yes.
Commissioner LEHRER? Commissioner LEHRER?
I don't see her on the screen.
Okay. Commissioner NEEMAN Brady?
Yes.
4 ayes.
Thank you. That motion is approved. We have item 16 to consider. And I understand we have speakers with respect to item 16 relative to the Personnel Relations Committee recommendation to the board. Yes. Okay.
Hi. Yes, suppose you're going to go first? Or Mr. Montgomery?
Let Montgomery do our speech.
Okay.
So you're going to speak for both, sir?
Actually, I'm going to speak for mine, actually.
Okay. Okay, that's fine. Please, sir, if you would state your name for the record and provide your comments to the board, that would be much appreciated. And welcome this morning.
Good morning, board. This is my name is Michael Montgomery, and I would like to say that I've worked for the Department of Water and Power going on 41 years. I began my career in South Los Angeles. During this time, I worked during the 1992 riots. For my safety, the police escorted me from station to station as fires burned and people were pulled from their cars. I moved to the San Fernando Valley, where I was on shift during the North Ridge earthquake for 72 hours straight to ensure power restoration to the city of Los Angeles. In April 2008, my seniority awarded me the station operator bid at Pine Tree Power Plant, which included a hotel for lodging. Lodging was originally located in the city of Tehachapi, later Mojave, and finally Lancaster, places which I never resided. The bids awarded to Mr. Alan Birdwell, Mr. Ronson Pills, and myself were for the same job, with the same responsibilities, reporting to the same location, also reporting to the same supervisor. But only 2 of the operators maintain lodging and transportation from hotel to hotel. Every Pine Tree manager that I approached regarding lodging declined to give me an explanation why I was denied lodging. Except for 2, those 2 who witnessed the egregious mistreatment and reinstated the hotels were Ed Lewis and Aaron Westbrook, who were told to remove me from the hotels again in the following weeks. When asked why, I was told that it came from a higher level and that they were not given a reason as to why I was denied lodging. During that time, other Pine Tree employees living in the Antelope Valley still receive lodging. I currently work with employees and crews that still have hotels in Lancaster, even though they live in Lancaster. My coworker maintained his hotel while living closest to Pine Tree. As my coworkers continue to take advantage of the hotels LADWP agreed to provide us, I asked myself, what was it about me that made the promise of lodging no longer acceptable to my case? Was it because I'm being the only Black employee at Pine Tree? None of the employees mentioned previously that had or still have lodging are people of color. Mayor Garcetti's equity mandate executive directive number 27 of June 19, 2020 was created to advance racial justice and inclusion. At this time, I do not feel included. I feel that management perpetuated an inequity, and I'm being discriminated against. It also states that state and local government entities shall not discriminate against or grant preferential treatment to any individual or group on basis of race, sex, color, ethnicity, or national origin to the operation of public employment, public education, or public contracting. The paragraph of the LOI that covers lodging states that there is a provision of lodging and or payment of subsistence to all employees permanently assigned to Pine Tree until its LOI is resolved. Again, there's nothing in the LOI stating that the employee had to be located in or outside of an area to receive lodging. For the first, second, and third level grievance meetings, management didn't respond to any questions to my grievance question of why I was refused hotels. I was ignored as if I didn't exist. I have recently received various management excuses as to why I was removed from the hotels. In the grievance response from Andrew Kendall, dated July 27, 2021, it states that any claims Mr. Montgomery may allege for lodging and or subsistence were waived when he did not follow the grievance procedure within 14 calendar days after his lodging was terminated. That was followed by an answer from him that says, dated November 22nd, 2021, stated I was not entitled to lodging since I reside in the Antelope Valley. Again, I have other coworkers and crews that currently reside in the same city and currently still have their lodging. Is there a deeper reasoning behind the removal of lodging from my contract? My response to this is that I started the grievance process as soon as it was brought to my attention that the LOL stated that all, and I repeat, all employees assigned to Pine Tree were eligible for lodging. Again, I find myself feeling an inequity and feeling discriminated against. Is there a statute of limitations on the inequity or discrimination complaint? All of this has in turn led to undue stress and pain at my expense, which could have been avoided by doing the right thing. That's all I have.
Thank you, sir. And thank you. Are there any questions?
Yes. Mr. Sempels?
Yes, can we please hear from the next grievance?
My name's Ron Sempels. I've been working for the department for 42 years almost. And I've been an operator since 1980. This is the only job I've ever had with the department. I've always seen fairness in everything I've dealt with. But when I got to Pine Tree, I was never advised of the LOI that came across my bid in 2011. I'm sorry, in December 2019. Let me back up here. I'm not a good public speaker, but in December of last year, December 11th of 2020, I was removed from my hotel, and I'm one of the few operators in generation that does not get lodging or housing. And I don't know why all of a sudden, after having the hotel for almost 10 years, I have that removed. I'm still not understanding the logic behind it, because all the managers in the lower levels kept saying certain things, and I tried to refute that at the next meeting, and I just don't understand, and I don't have anything else to say. I'm a little nervous. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so very much. I appreciate your being here this morning. Are there any questions or comments regarding either of these items?
Yes, I would like to ask what was the recommendation by the Personnel Relations Committee regarding this situation?
The recommendation was to uphold the findings of our labor relations folks. This was an issue that is similar to other grievances that we've heard before that has something to do with the pine tree and the job classifications there that were on a basis where there was ongoing negotiation, and in the interim, the lodging was like a subsistence provision that they have agreed to have until that job classification has been finalized, and therefore that lodging was removed. If I understand that correctly,
That's correct.
Andy?
That is correct.
Yeah, the full findings of the report are contained in the board packet. And in response to the question about a statute of limitations on a lack of equity or discrimination, I would say, at least from my perspective, there is no such thing. However, those were not claims raised in the context of the grievance. And in this instance, as the president of that committee indicates, there are a number of grievances surrounding issues related to an extended period of negotiations, including LOIs that were advanced but then not approved, which then resulted in additional negotiations that created certain accommodations to employees that were temporary and not permanent. And the department's position proved from the perspective of the committee both credible and correct. This committee has not been hesitant to find on behalf of the grievant where warranted. In this instance, it was not considered warranted. In these two instances, it was not considered warranted. Are there any additional questions, or are we prepared to move to a vote? If there are no additional questions, is there a motion both for items
17, just that one?
No, item L2 and also item 17. May I have a motion to approve both items?
I move approval.
Second, sir?
I believe this is 18, if I'm not mistaken.
No, this isn't 18. This is 16, I'm sorry.
16.
Yeah, you've got 17 on the board. Yeah. It's item 16. So we're moving to approve items L2 and items L16. 17 and 18 were the resolutions.
The titles, just because I think an old draft had it at 17.
There's some confusion.
I must be working off a different agenda because I have the grievances as item 18, so.
Okay, that's a good idea, Nicole, so we'll do that. So why don't I make the motion? I move approval of the local capacity technical report, Scattergood, generating station units 1 and 2 for extension request. So can I get a second on that motion?
I second.
And would you please take the roll?
Board President McCLAIN-HILL?
Yes.
Vice President Reyes?
Yes.
Commissioner BARAD-HOPKINS?
Yes.
Commissioner NEEMAN Brady?
Yes.
All
Four
right.
ayes.
Thank you. And then I also move approval for, I also move that the board approve the Personnel Relations Committee's report for grievance numbers 8-009-21, 8-001-21, 8, they seem to be replicated, 8-011-21, and 8-12-21, filed by Roland. I'm going to destroy your name, sir. Schmidt, Simples, and Michael Montgomery.
I second.
Would you please take the roll?
Board President McCLAIN-HILL.
Aye.
Vice President Reyes.
Aye.
Commissioner BARAD-HOPKINS.
No, I'm going to vote no because I really think that we need to investigate this some more. I'm not comfortable with what we've come up with today.
Okay.
Thank you. Commissioner NEEMAN Brady. Commissioner NEEMAN.
I heard you.
Okay.
Forgive my deliberation. I will abstain.
Commissioner, I want you to understand that an abstention is a yes vote. It's recorded as a yes vote.
It's recorded as an abstention, but it becomes a yes vote.
Yes. Okay. Fine. Just so you understand, that's the impact of the abstention. Commissioner LEHRER.
Oh, she has left the meeting.
She's left the meeting. Thank you. Then that would be 3 affirmative votes. So the motion carries. Mr. Bravich, is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay, thank you.
Board President McCLAIN-HILL, can I just confirm, because there's confusion, that the item L2, it was voted on with, it says L16. Was that the MEA Personnel Relations Committee?
No, I read the item for this one. I'm pretty confident. Yes.
Okay. The MEA one was voted on in consent.
That was voted on
Thank
consent.
you. Okay.
Yes.
I apologize. We'll look into this to make sure it doesn't happen again. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I think that concludes the public board meeting, and we are now prepared or ready to retire into closed session. It is noon, and I know that a break of some kind is in order, so we're running a little early today, so would 20 minutes suffice for folks, or do we need to push to 30? And I'm actually talking to the commissioners. I see Commissioner NEEMAN Brady, who probably would prefer 15. So and I know Commissioner...
Not me longer.
No, I understand. And Commissioner BARAD-HOPKINS would prefer 30. So we're going to do 20 minutes, and we will come back at, it's 12:05. We'll come back at 12:25 to take up closed session. And for the members of the executive staff, all of whom I would expect to be in this meeting, it will be taking place in the boardroom so that there's plenty of room to do it in person. So thank you.
At this point, we will take a recess and reconvene at 12:25 in closed session to deal with the items on item M of today's agenda, and in accordance with California Government Code Section 54957.1, we will report any final and reportable actions taken therein. We are in recess.
Thank you.
Please remain silent as the microphones are turned off. Thank you.